And now for your moderator, Michelle Nedved.
Well, now I don't have to talk about the importance of democracy. They took care of it for me. I'm Michelle Nedved. I'm the owner and publisher of the Newport Miner newspaper. I want to take a moment to thank all of you for being here and for all of our candidates for being here and for running for office. This is a big time and financial commitment, and it's inspiring to see you guys all here. Stage here, we'll give you each 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, tell us what you're running for. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then at the end, you'll get another minute to tell us why we should vote for you. And John Gentle.
I'm John Gentle. I'm the sitting commissioner for District 1, the county. I'm here because 4 years ago you decided I was serving the public enough you wanted to make it my full-time job. We talked 4 years ago. We talked about building up the strength of this community on a foundation of safety, health, and prosperity. And I'm proud to stand before you today and talk about some of the successes we've had in that regard. 2024, our budget in 2024 represents the high water mark of investment in the Sheriff's Office for Pend Oreille County. This is to say we are taking your safety seriously. It is the highest priority. And with the addition of 2 investigators, we are also hearing the people. You want justice, not just response. Today, for health, you have never had more options for health care than you have in 2024 with the addition of New Health, with the Camas Center expanding, with the work we're doing in counseling services all the way to the Canadian border. And then in prosperity, of course, the county comprehensive plan signed into place, a complete overhaul of our land use to get government out of your way for economic development. And we didn't stop there. We went through community development with a fine-tooth comb. For efficiency, to trim the fat, we have almost doubled the amount of permits we're putting through that department on your behalf. You have been heard. I get results. I hope to create some daylight between me and my opponent in that regard, but I certainly appreciate you guys being here tonight. Listen, it's hump day. You have 100 places you'd rather be. It means a lot to me that you're here, and Michelle, thank you for your work on this as well.
Thank you, John. And Steve Minnich.
Well, good evening. Thank you for participating in a constitutional representative republic. When we said the Pledge of Allegiance and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. Historically, democracies have all failed. It's true. Check it out. I've done my research. Sandy and I have lived in your community, our community, for over 30 years. Our teenagers grew up and now they're in their 40s. Sandy and I have 6 grandchildren, and I drive school bus for Meade School District. And thank you to you students who are here in the audience tonight. You remind me of my grandkids. So I taught at CUSIC for 14 years of my nearly 30 years of teaching. I was a trained musician, a singing entertainer in the Air National Guard Band of the Northwest for over 26 years. I retired from that in 2012. The Air Guard sent me all over the world. It was a wonderful experience, and I sang to televised audiences of 2 million and live audiences of 60,000. I'm also an author. Once I retired from teaching in 2007, I went into financial planning, and I wrote chapters in several books. This is a book called 8 Perspectives on Prosperity Economics. I wrote a chapter in a book that's headlined by Kevin Harrington. He was one of the original sharks on the ABC TV's very popular Shark Tank. And this is a book that I wrote entirely. This is a publisher's copy. The book is going through its 2nd edition, and I hope to have that out by about this time next year. You also, on your chair, have my business card and a door hanger, and I wrote those as well. That's the message that we want to give to you. Please read that and go to our website. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And Brian Smiley.
Yeah, I'd like to start with just thanking everybody who's put the work into having this evening tonight. I think that these kind of events still serve a real important purpose, even though we live in an age of social media and the internet. I think a live presence is still really a community service. I'd like to thank the minor and the high school for putting this out tonight. I'm not going to take a lot of time talking about who I am tonight. I was born over here in the Newport Hospital, grew up in the county, built a business here, raised my family here. I ask you a question tonight. How do you predict future behavior? How do you know what men will do in the future? I tell you that the way to predict future behavior is to look at what people are doing right now. Look at what they've done in the past. I have served this community. I have built my business here. I've employed people here. I've given them meaningful work. I've worked in my church and served in that community. I've served every place I've ever been, and I will continue to do so wherever I'm at. I think that politicians are eager to volunteer their service when there's positions of authority available. They're eager to say, I will do this, I will do that. I ask you to look at what they are doing and look at what they have done. The choice before the voters is not whether I will serve this community, it is where that will be. I ask that they allow me to continue serving them on the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And Kevin Young.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Young. I want to start by saying I was an entrepreneur as a young age. I was signing checks to people when I was 13 years old. I had my own crew, hauling hay for farmers, putting up 100 ton a day in southeastern Washington. All through my life, I've been a businessman. I've been doing things to employ people. Even when I was a heavy equipment operator in Southern California, did that for 10 years. I worked for the WSDOT for 31 years before I retired. During that time, I had Young Excavation and Construction, where I hired 8 people. We built homes, poured concrete, did all kinds of things. I'm a husband. We have 7 children, 15 grandchildren, and 2 more on the way. And so we're very blessed to have the kids and the grandchildren. With my experience in construction and in business and being on the other side of the counter from where the county commissioners sit, I see the problems that we have in this county especially, where the regulations are so tough and stumbling blocks are thrown out in front of everybody that wants to create something in this county. I want to get in there to cut regulation. I want to put stepping stones to help people get things done. The reason I got into this is I complained about the county almost every night to my wife, and she said, I don't want to hear it anymore. You get out and do something about it. So that's why I'm here tonight. I'd love to serve you. I'd love to work for you, because that's what county does. That's what government's supposed to do, is work for you, not put you under their thumb. Thank you, and I would appreciate your support and your vote.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, next we'll move on to county commissioners. And this first question will go to John Gentle first. All 4 commissioner candidates will have the same question. With the dissolution of the Economic Development Council, the county could have shifted economic development efforts and funds to the Tri-County Economic Development District. Instead, the commissioners moved to hand efforts to the Port of Ponderay, with the EDC becoming an advisory committee. Since you voted for that move, can you please explain your decision?
Oh, absolutely. You have to understand the structure of this. These are 09 funds. It's a sales tax rebate. You pay sales tax and we get some back if we use it as a siloed fund for economic development. But because we're not the only ones that pay sales tax, all of the towns and the other entities get to have a say in that. So the EDC, that's what that was. This is, I own in Medellin Falls and City of Newport, and players from the tribe and the PUD and from the port, from the hospital at some point, the chambers of commerce. This is the voice of the people. So I believe at the time it was a unanimous vote that the port would become the ADO for Pend Oreille County. That is the voice of the people. If it wasn't unanimous, it was awfully close. It was an overwhelming majority. Brian will be able to speak better to that. That is his committee. I support the decision, and I would have supported it from the start. The port has been founded. Frankly, I don't know that we'd have a Pend Oreille County without the Port of Pend Oreille, without the rail clear to the Canadian border and the concrete that really kind of built this county. And so they have long ago proven their worth, their value, their hard work to this county. And if those people who we work with daily say that they can get it done, I trust them to get it done. I was also getting feedback from Tri-County Economic Development. It hasn't always gone our way with Ted. I think they happen to have a good crew in there now. I like the crew they have in there now, but we just don't have the control when we hand our dollars to another county, to another entity. We just have a small piece of the vote, and that hasn't traditionally gone well for Pend Oreille County to ship our vote out to others. So no, I support the decision as it is.
Okay, thank you, John. And to you, Steve, the question would be, do you agree with the decision that the seated commissioners made?
Well, it was not a unanimous vote. We all know that, and John knows that as well. Everyone that I've posed this question to has always come up with the same answer. If your wife was on the board of POVA Railroad and you were a commissioner deciding on who would get the management supervision of EDC, whether that would be Tri-County or a local Pend Oreille Valley Authority, would that be a conflict of interest? Every single person I've spoken to has said that would be a definite conflict of interest. I don't know how we can get away from that. As you can see on my business card and my door hanger, no conflicts of interest. My wife is not going to serve on the board of POVA Railroad, on the Port Commission. So there it is, right in your face. This is why I ran. We need to make sure that we are responsible to the people of this county, not seeking our own aggrandizement, not profiting from the people of this county, but serving the people of this county. And I guarantee you that I will serve you. I will listen to you from all walks of life.
To get back to the question, Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you obviously don't agree with the decision. Would you have rather that the county contracted with TED for economic development services?
Yes, the Tri-County Economic Development, I think, has a proven record, and that would be who I would have voted for. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Michelle, can I have a rebuttal in 60 seconds, please? There was an accusation.
There was an accusation there, and just to clarify, John Gentle's wife is a port commissioner.
I'll make this quick, Steve. I think you could have saved yourself some embarrassment if you talked to legal counsel on this one. I certainly did. Pend Oreille County has a legal department. One of their jobs is to keep commissioners from doing stupid things, illegal things. If you think I did not check with my legal department 24 times over the term of this contract, you do me a disservice. I will tell you what they told me, and then I would recommend you make that call yourself, because it'd take you 38 seconds to understand what I understand. There isn't a conflict of interest. There can't be a conflict of interest. There is actually no legal pathway to a conflict of interest for one simple reason. In order for there to be a conflict, I have to benefit from the contract financially, or my wife does. We do not get one penny from that contract. It is between the county and the port as ADO, and so there isn't one, and that is a legal determination by my prosecutor. Feel free to call.
Thank you, John.
No.
30 seconds.
The county residents are going to decide whether or not there is a conflict of interest, because we have on the books a law that says not just a conflict of interest, but the appearance of a conflict of interest. There's obviously the appearance of a conflict of interest. John should have recused himself from this vote. That's all very clear to all of us who are thinking people.
All right, Brian.
Go ahead and repeat the question.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of things I want to clarify in there, I think, so repeat it.
Okay. With the dissolution of the EDC, the Economic Development Council, the county could have shifted economic development efforts and funds to the Tri-County Economic Development District. Instead, the commissioners moved to hand efforts to the Port of Ponderay, and the EDC became an advisory board. As you were part of this decision, can you please explain?
Well, I'll answer the question directly first. Yes, I support the decision. I think when John referred to a unanimous vote, he was referring to the vote of the advisory committee in the EDC, and I think he knew what he was talking about, and that was accurate. It was very nearly unanimous. I think there may have been one abstention and maybe one nay, but that group did vote to recommend to the Board of Commissioners exactly what we did. I would also clarify that the EDC is in the process of dissolving. They are not becoming an advisory committee to the port. That is a new organization and a new committee. We're in the process of getting legal counsel with the EDC to dissolve and close that body down. And the advisory board to the port is now just that, an advisory board to the port, and it will have no connection to the EDC. So I want to clarify that.
Thank you.
But yeah, I support the decision. It was a recommendation of a broad spectrum of this community. And to think that the commissioners would have to have really compelling reason to go against that recommendation. I take the recommendation of our advisory committees really seriously. And so that was an overwhelming support. I feel like that the economic decisions with regards to our 09 funds should be made here locally. I think that's a litmus test of whether we can function as a community to make those decisions locally. And we need to get it together and figure it out.
Thank you, Brian. Kevin Young?
I don't really know all the ins and outs of everything that happened, but just by what I'm hearing, I would have said that I would have gone away from the vote that they took and what they did, because I think that we could have effectively used that money more wisely here locally in the economic development of this county.
They did keep the money local.
Well, in the way that it helps the voter, I think it could have been used better. Keeping the money local, but yet using it for the right thing is what I'm talking about.
Do you have an idea as to what you would use that money for that would help the voter?
Well, when you go back to the Tri-County, I think that they could have done better by supporting people effectively in the county, more so than the way the money was spent.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to jump back to the county commissioner race, and this time we'll start with you, Mr. Young. What's your position on a countywide EMS district? The current Board of Commissioners has said if the fire districts come to a consensus supporting the formation of a district, they would support it. But if the fire districts don't come to a consensus, how do you propose EMS services are guaranteed?
Well, the vote on the EMS went down, and so that was the will of the people. If the EMS is tied to the fire department, I think that would be a very good thing, because the fire department seems to go out on every call anyway. Everybody's there. So since the voters said no to the last EMS levy that we had, I think combining them with the fire department would be a very good thing so they could be supported within the funds of the fire department.
So would you support a countywide EMS district? The vote that failed was within one fire district. We're asking about a countywide EMS district. Would you support the formation of that?
I think that would be very feasible because we want the safety of the people of our county, and if anybody is in trouble physically, we want them to be taken care of and made well just as fast as we can.
Thank you. Mr. Smiley?
Yeah. Again, I'll answer the question directly, and then I'll try to elaborate a little bit. Yeah, I do support a countywide EMS district. I think that the stance the commissioners take on that, I 100% agree with. That is a good idea if the fire districts can come to agreement on that. And I think that's a very wise stance. And I commend Commissioner Rosenkrantz on his work on that. I think that's a good tack to take. I think that a countywide EMS district is a good idea. I think it removes some of the responsibilities and the strain on the fire districts and allows for a more direct funding that is tied to that responsibility and that service. It also, remember, does not necessarily mean a levy. It does not necessarily mean more taxes. But to me, I think we're getting there as a county especially if we look at our demographics and we look at the success of Fire 2 in North County. I would just say that ALS service in North County is highly supported. And most everybody in the North County has somebody in their family that's directly affected. So, yeah, I'll answer the question directly. Yes, but I think we've taken a wise stance on it.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Minnich.
One of the most important things that county commissioners can do for the people of this county is to protect you and to keep you safe. Right? That's absolutely what we need to do. Here's a unique idea. Over and above having a EMS district is having an affinity group where people can buy at a significant discount a helicopter ride in case they have an emergency. Now, to do that, we would also need to have the infrastructure, and that would mean building helicopter pads throughout the county. And then, of course, we would want to have people getting to those helicopter pads, right? So this is a new creative idea. That's what I want to bring to the Commissioners Board, our creative ideas. Yes, we do need an emergency response district, but beyond that, we can do something for our county in a very significant way by simply giving everybody the opportunity to buy the special insurance that you get when a helicopter comes to pick you up and take you to either Newport Hospital or down to Spokane. That's my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Gentle?
So I stand by the commissioner's statement that if all of the fire districts agree on the concept of an EMS district, that the commissioners would vote, and that was actually what we said, that we would take a vote on it. I can't tell you if I would yay or nay for that vote. Haven't heard enough from the people. I could be moved to that place. I will say historically, with that much redundancy and that much administration, it is not hard to imagine how some of their bookkeepers may be stronger than others. Some of their leadership may be stronger than others, where you can identify places where they're misusing funds, right? The way it's broken up now, they pass their own levies based on the people that trust them that they're serving. The way it's broken up now, some districts are richer than others, right? Spofer has a much denser population than, say, the middle of the county, and who's got to take care of that and lose $40,000 a month to provide those services? I would really want to see pretty comprehensive planning and some oversight before I would vote yes on it, because there's a lot of work left to be done. And it's taken us this long just to get them to point in the same direction, all but one, hammering out those details. It's going to take some work.
Thank you. Talking to the county commissioner candidates first. Mr. Minnich, you get to go first this time.
Thanks.
This next question is a two-parter dealing with infrastructure.
Dealing with what?
Infrastructure.
Okay.
Most municipalities in the county are faced with deteriorating water and sewer systems. Does the county have the responsibility to assist those municipalities? And also, would you be willing to fund county roads with a vehicle license add-on fee?
A vehicle license add-on fee. You know, there's a lot of construction on the highways in Ponderay County right now, and people might assume that that's the county, but it isn't. It's the state Department of Transportation. So it looks really good, and it's so smooth to drive on those roads, isn't it? But that's not the county. Those are state roads. So having said that, I'm not in favor of having more and more taxes. I think that what we need to do is be more efficient in how we spend the money that's already coming into the county. Having said that, I believe that it's extremely important for us to take care of the people of this county. We have some cities, Cusick being one of them, they'd be in a lot better shape if they had an extra $200,000 in their coffers, right? That will hopefully eventually resolve itself. But in the meantime, the county needs to step up and help the cities. Now, granted, if, for instance, Diamond Lake became a city, that would be a lot of taxes that would not be flowing into the county. However, we need to, as a commissioner's board, make decisions that will assist the residents of Diamond Lake to have some of the benefits of being a city without being a city. For instance, having more concentrated residential housing on both sides of Highway 2, not just on the lake side of Highway 2. So yes, there are things that we can do that will help our community in many, many ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gentle?
Michelle, can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. Most municipalities in the county are faced with deteriorating water and sewer systems. Does the county have the responsibility to assist those municipalities? And then the second part is, would you be willing to fund county roads with a vehicle license add-on fee?
The second part's easy. The answer is a hard no from me. The state of Washington has enough of your money, has enough of our money. The dollars we get back from gas tax are disproportionate, with counties own 65% of the roads in the state and 45% of the bridges and crossings, and we get a fraction of that in funding. So I would prefer them to watch them have to make tough decisions of their own, to prioritize the spending. Infrastructure, nothing happens without the roads, frankly. It's all built on that. They need to be increasing our share of what's already given to them. I'm not interested in adding another tax for the people here. I understand we are the users of our roads. I simply think the state has enough of our money. The other one's a little trickier. Short answer, Michelle, is yes. Well, no, not a responsibility, an opportunity. These are incorporated areas, and county commissioners have zero authority there. So we don't get to walk in and say we're doing this. And I can tell you from experience, from watching over the last 4 years, they resent that. They have their own elected officials. We do help them, all of them. We replaced a lift pump in Medellin Falls. We cleaned the screens, reconditioned the wells in Newport. Wright County paid for that. We are collaborative there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to burn through this in time. I am working on a bill with Senator Short. I am authoring it. Call it Certified Operator Program. The premise of the bill is this: you pay tens of millions of dollars in prematurely failed infrastructure, replacing this infrastructure instead of preventative maintenance. That's where we're falling down because our towns don't have the certified operators to keep it. We weren't cleaning our wells. We weren't replacing, no preventative maintenance, right? So this seems very predictable. I'm afraid the bill has too much common sense for Olympia to bite on it. We'll see how that goes. But just a short metaphor there. If you don't put oil in your truck, it's going to blow up. The state would have you say replace the engine, but we know the real answer, don't we? Put oil in it.
Thank you, John. And Mr. Young.
Port Washington, this is 91.5 Cubs FM.
Well, I'll start off with roads as well. In the state constitution, the taxes on fuel directly go back into roads and infrastructure. They do not go into the general fund like a lot of states do. So we need to talk with the transportation department and see what we can do to get more money back over here to work on roads and get those fixed. I also think that road building is one of the things that I do. If we could do things more efficiently and put money that we have towards it at a certain time, it would be a great thing. I read in the paper where Rosencrantz wanted to do some road work, but the other two county commissioners said you don't have enough money to do all the lanes that you want to, all the miles that you want to do, so they pulled that money and put it elsewhere. I say that money should have went to go as far as it could go because our roads are in terrible shape. When we get to the infrastructure, I don't think we can go into a different municipality and do any work there. But what we can do is talk with the operators within that area, again, to do maintenance instead of waiting till there's a massive failure and then having to go in and spend 3 times, 4 times more money than you would have had to have done to just maintain the operation.
Thank you.
I think I'll take a stab at it without hearing it again. I know I've started a pattern tonight of answering questions directly. I'm going to deviate a little bit from that pattern. I will answer the vehicle license add-on with this statement. I would like to see local control of our road taxes and revenue. Okay? I am not confident the state of Washington is going to give us our fair share of road revenue, period. I have zero confidence that that will happen. The problem with Ponderay County roads is a lack of control of the revenue that is earned in this county. If we had control of that revenue, we could do a much better job. End of statement. Okay. Am I in favor of that? I don't know. I would like to see local control over those revenues. It is more complicated than the average constituent understands. The revenues for roads, especially local roads, are going the wrong direction. Okay, I will say that. And these two questions are tied at the hip. They have to do with the spending of this state and their priorities where they have neglected infrastructure. I was a town water commissioner for over 10 years. I'm very aware of the issues facing every one of our towns with their infrastructure. Counties make pretty lousy utilities. I will just put that to the PUD commissioners. And I think John had the right answer. It's an opportunity to help. Do we have an obligation? No. Are we just as likely to make a mess of it as they did? Yes. Okay, I'll end with that.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the county commission candidates, and we'll start with Brian Smiley. This question came from a high school student, which I think is pretty cool. The unemployment rate is currently 5.7%. If elected or re-elected, how would you lower unemployment further?
Really good question. And the control that county commissioners have over the economy in this county is rightly very limited. And, I often think I could do more to help the economy if I quit my commissioner job and went back to my other job. But I think one of the things we can do is work on the impediments to the economy in this county. I think the land use and the comp plan is one of those things. We're clearly seeing that that's been an impediment. I think we can have greater cooperation and efficiencies between the county and the PUD and the towns in our infrastructure. The infrastructure in this county is a serious impediment to economic activity. Right now, in my own business, I could hire more employees if I could find them a place to live. Okay. The reason they can't have a place to live is because the towns are at capacity in their infrastructure. So that's an issue that we can work on. It falls directly at the feet of elected officials. So that's one area I think that we do have control over, is those areas like that is what we need to focus on. I think that would help. I think for young people, and I think this is especially appropriate, that this comes from a young person. I have 3 teenagers in my house. I'm really trying to get them to stay here. And I think they need jobs and they need places to live. They're going to stay here. So,
Thank you. Mr. Young?
Could you ask the question one more time?
Absolutely. The unemployment rate is currently 5.7%. If elected, how would you lower unemployment further?
I think the very first thing you need to start to do there is cut regulations that are erroneous. Like I stated before, they're throwing stumbling blocks in front of people instead of stepping stones trying to get something accomplished. And in doing so, we have a desperate housing need in this county, and it would make it more affordable and easier for home builders to build more houses. Now, when we get to, and there's where people can have a place to live once they've got a job, then we promote businesses to come in here. We've got the energy, we've got the area, we've had so many industrial places move out of here, and jobs have gone with them, and new businesses are going to the other side of the river, over to Idaho, because they are more friendly to business. We need to be friendly to business. We need to promote this as a place to do business and get industry coming in. I think that is the perfect storm to lower the unemployment rate.
Thank you. Mr. Gentle?
So, yes, to lower the unemployment rate in Ponderay County, all I will need to do is fix your failing infrastructure, solve the housing crisis, solve the child care crisis, solve the workforce shortage, and then probably flip the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion as well. There's probably lower hanging fruit. We're working on the other, but there's probably lower hanging fruit. We can get out of your way. I'll just plus one most of Kevin's comments there. Government needs to get out of your way. These are statutory obligations. These are RCWs and state law. And so my work, our role here is a permissive role to make land use make sense, to streamline permitting, and then to go to the legislature every spring and study those bills and carve out Ponderay County. Joel Kretz had some success last year. It's kind of a posturing bill. We are no longer a remote rural county. We're a frontier county. Our population is so sparse that we qualify as a frontier county. And this sets us up to have a whole new set of bills just for us. Listen, if we are following rules built for the majority of the population, built for King County and Snohomish County and Pierce County, they simply don't translate. There's no economies of scale here. If I put something out for RFP, I could put it out 3 times and get no respondents at all. Where in Seattle, they might get 14, right? So the napkin math doesn't work for us. We have to be heard in Olympia. I need your help doing that. It's easier now more than ever. You can jump online. You can address the floor of the legislature sitting in your pajamas with a cup of coffee. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but the answer is really in the legislation, folks.
Thank you. Mr. Minnich?
There are some things that we can do, one of which is something I have already begun, and that is to reach out to a company who wants to bring a manufacturing company here to Ponderay County. They'll employ about 100 employees. They want to build affordable housing panels. The way that would work is the panels would exceed the building requirements of our county and could be set up as a house within a couple of days. So the concrete pad that the house would be built on would be, of course, take longer, a drying time, etc. It would have the plumbing and the electrical in it. And then these panels would be not like Legos, but kind of like that, where they would simply be craned into place, attached, and then within 2 days, there'd be a roof on it, and it would be completely dried in from beginning to end. So I've already contacted that company. They're very interested in coming to Ponderay County. Where they would build that factory, where they would build the affordable housing is yet to be determined, but they have an interest in coming to our county. This is the kind of creative thinking that I want to bring to the Commissioners Board. I appreciate the fact that the student quoted what they did in their research, a 5.7% unemployment rate, but you must also recognize, please, that that number is not accurate. When people stop looking for work, then the statistics assume that they found a job. Well, that's not the case. They may have just decided to stop looking for work. Also, a lot of our immigrants are, and I'm speaking of legal and illegal immigrants, are taking jobs away from working Americans. That affects that 5.7% as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're heading into the last round of questions because we want to be done by 8 here. So we'll go to the county commissioners. I have one set of questions for the incumbents and another question for the challengers. So we will start with Mr. Gentle. So this question will be asked of both you and Brian Smiley. Traditionally, boards of commissioners are unanimous in their decisions. That doesn't seem to be the case with the current board, where votes typically are the two of you versus County Commissioner Robert Rosenkrantz. Why do you think that is?
Why is it ever? It's disagreement, right? I think maybe the 30,000 foot view is Brian and I have been here for decades, and Robert comes from a different area, right? And so he has a different view on things. He's learning the county. I'm somewhere in between, 3 decades. Brian's 5th generation or something like that. He's put all of your floors in, you know him personally. So a difference of opinion, I think it's healthy. I think there isn't anyone in that room afraid to challenge anyone. I think that's, well, I don't know. Joe could probably lend me his quote from earlier. If everyone's disagreeing, somebody's wrong. Or if everyone's agreeing, somebody's... Give me the quote, Joe.
If everybody's thinking the same, somebody's not thinking.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. And so yeah, a short answer is we come from different walks of life, and we represent different districts as well, right? He represents Newport primarily and greater Newport area, and so they might be giving him a different message than my area has given me. There are lots of reasons we can disagree. You get a board that doesn't disagree, that doesn't vote. Those are red flags as far as I'm concerned. That might not be inherently a thinking board, maybe just an agreeable board.
And Mr. Smiley, same question.
Once again, I'm going to side with John on this.
Case in point.
and I do think it's healthy. I would take exception to saying that we typically have those votes. I think they have been really fairly exceptional in the last few years since Robert's been there. There's been some key areas where we have some differences of opinion that were, obvious and apparent and heartfelt. And I think it's as it should be that we cast those votes in how we think is best. And the people can decide that. I don't think it's a big deal. I think that John said it well. I think we should have those discussions at the table, and that we should have a place at the table where we shouldn't be questioning each other's motives. I really do take exception to that. I think that's falsehood, that we're questioning each other's motives. And I will get bent out of shape when people come to the table and say, well, you're doing this because of that. No, I take John at his word. He believes that what the decisions he makes are the best for the county. I would hope people would do the same for me. I'm going to do that for Robert too. Okay? And I think we need to have those conversations. In the past, as I recall, I'm not sure there was ever a split vote on the previous Board of Commissioners. That doesn't mean they always agree. I will just say that.
Good point. Thank you, Brian. Steve Minnich. So this question is for both you and Mr. Young. I believe both of you have said that you plan to end the Growth Management Act in Pend Oreille County. How do you plan to do that?
Well, would George Patton give away his war plans? I'm not sure that he would, but let me say let me say this. I do know personally the individual who helped to pass the exit strategy from the Growth Management Act. And there is a back door. There is an exit strategy. I'm not going to give away all my tactics, okay? George Patton wouldn't either. However, I will ask you, the voters, this question. Why hasn't the current Board of Commissioners gotten us out of the Growth Management Act? Now, the Growth Management Act might work great for King County or Pierce County, but for a rural county or Frontier County, I like that idea. It just doesn't work as well for us. We need to have control of our own destiny in regard to our property rights. And that includes the mineral rights under the property and the air above the property and the water that crosses the property. We need to have control over those things as well. So yeah, I'm not going to give away all of my tactics, but I've given you enough to realize that there is a path to getting rid of the Growth Management Act. And I think it's high time. It doesn't work for us. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm opposed to environmentalism. I'm not an environmentalist. I'm a creationist. I worship the God who created the environment and the animals and the birds and the fish. But I don't worship the trees. I don't worship the environment.
Thank you. Mr. Young, same question.
Well, Mr. Minnich said it very well, and I don't know that there's much that I can add to that, but he started talking about the animals, and so that's something else we got to look at, is the wolf population that we have, where Idaho will pay you in Idaho, you get paid $1,000 per dog, and it's illegal to shoot them here in Washington when they're taking advantage of our animals, cattle, sheep, and so on. But like I've said before, I look to successful people to follow and to learn by. And like Mr. Minnich said, there's already somebody out there who's done this for their county. The Growth Management Act has gone there. I've got his phone number. I stay in contact with him. And so when I'm elected, we will get rid of that, and we also will get rid of the green energy policies that are going on in this county that require you to spend thousands of dollars for unneeded things, for new plans to build with. So we're going to get it done. There's no doubt about it.
You're just not going to tell us how.
I'm not going to tell you how.
So the person that you know who managed to do this in another county has done this recently, got their county out of the GMA recently.
Correct.
Wasn't there an opportunity when a previous board was in office and that opportunity wasn't taken, and that opportunity has now closed? Still a backdoor.
Without harming our environment.
That's your time is up. All right. Thank you for you all. Thank you very much. You will now each have 1 minute to tell us why voters should choose you. Mr. Young.
I'm going to go right along with them with the experience. I'll give you a little bit of background. Of course, you know I was in construction and laid a lot of concrete. I went to work for JMAC because they needed a driver. Every job that I went on, I was always on the other side of the aisle. So when I backed a truck in to dump concrete, we got done with that. Every concrete company around here wanted to hire me right on the spot. So being in construction, being a businessman, being on the other side of the counter at the county, dealing with all the regulations, I know what I'm doing to get rid of them. I know what the problems are. I know how to get them solved. I ask for your vote November 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Smiley?
Yeah, somebody said that government belongs to those that show up. I think I can make the case that I've showed up in this county. I've dedicated myself to serving this community for my entire adult life. Virtually every issue that we've discussed here tonight, I've been heavily involved in for decades. I think I have the understanding and the knowledge of these issues, and I think I have a demonstrated history to building them up and trying to do better for this county. And I think I want to serve this county in the Board of Commissioners, and I'm hoping for people's vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Minnich.
Well, thank you to the Newport Miner, and thank all of you for coming out tonight. I want to serve this county. That's why I ran for county commissioner. You know, it's sad when you see politicians that are seeking self-aggrandization, power, money, but I want to serve. That's how I'm wired. I encourage you to take a moment to consider who you really want to have as your county commissioner. Someone who's looking for the opportunity to lower their own assessed values, or somebody that wants to serve you, to help you have lower taxes, to have better paying jobs, and to have control of your own property. I appreciate your vote. Please vote for Steve Haraldson Minnich.
Thank you. And Mr. Gentle?
Folks, public servant is not a title. You don't get to throw it on at campaign season like a ball cap or a t-shirt. You'll have a history. You'll have a body of work. You'll have worked with over half the people in the room. So I don't want to serve. I do serve, and I have for 3 decades at this point. This job requires a lot of homework. More than anything, this job requires study. And that is on behalf of you. Every head sheet we process is going to be 5 minutes to 5 years of research. Some of these issues predate us. So when you see this experience gap between us, and you see the clear disparity between people who know what they're talking about and people who are just throwing around theories, we all want to pay lower property taxes. We all want government to get out of our way, right? Who has the experience to do it? Who has a track record? Who has gotten results in one short term? Guys, there's more on the way. We've got a lot of good things coming. I hope to see you in November. Most of you I'll see you long before then, so thank you.
Thank you.